Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to do this oral history. And we just want to have a nice little conversation. First, can you tell us your name, the year you were born, if you don't mind telling your age?
I don't mind.
All right.
Okay, my name is Claudette Archibald. I was born in 1934, and I'm 86, will be 87 in November,
Where were you born?
in Alabama, Birmingham, Inslee.
Nice. So I guess you've seen a lot growing up in Alabama.
I've seen a lot.
Wow.
Been a lot of places, done a lot of things, met a lot of people.
So, favorite part of life?
Wow. I've had a lot of favorite parts of life in every phase of my life. In my early years, when I was growing up, my life wasn't so easy. But the good part about it, I had all of my relatives. I had all of my grandmother, my great grandmother, my great greats. They were all alive and around me. So we had lots of relatives, cousins, and friends who came to visit, and we spent a lot of times with relatives. That was a good part. And the bad part to me was my father, because he was abusive and he was an alcoholic and a womanizer. And he used to be really cruel to my mother and to me, just the women in his life. It was like my brothers say, I don't know why you live here because he's so mean. But I spent most of my time with my grandparent, my mother's parent, because, and they had two sons. My mother had two brothers, younger brothers. And there, I had a regular life.
Right.
It was only when I came back home to be with my family, my mother and the sons. I had four brothers growing up. My oldest brother was Grover. Next was Donald, then Victor, and Frank, Roderick. Then I had one sister who was born while I was in college. And my father called me up and said, wow, you have a sister. Now, I'm growing up as a girl, right? And I said, are you kidding me? I don't need a, well, I did love my sister, but he said, I said, I don't need a sister now. I don't have anybody to grow up with. So I used to pretend I had a sister. I used to pretend I had a sister who was off in college, but it wasn't the truth. Anyway, when you live with so many boys, you have to learn to be rough.
Right.
You have to learn to protect yourself. And of course, they looked out for me, but I played football, baseball, and I could outfight any of the boys in the community
Now
because I had to survive.
you played football?
Yep, touch ball.
Okay.
Yeah.
What position?
And we played in the street. And when my father would buy toys and things for us for Christmas, he didn't have too much when he was growing up. He was from a wealthy family now, but apparently they didn't buy him a lot of toys. So he would buy the most expensive toys, cars, airplanes that rolled down the street, baseball gloves, footballs. He never bought anything for me. I wore overalls all the time. And the women in the neighborhood would say, why do you wear all pants? Because in those days it wasn't popular
Right.
for a girl to wear pants. But I did because that's all I had. And my grandmother sewed, so she would make me dresses to wear to church. But that was it.
So so wearing pants, you say, was sort of a taboo thing for girls?
Not taboo, it's just that, like you teachers, when they teaching, they couldn't wear pants to work at one time.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you know if they knew that or not. But they were not supposed to wear pants. They had to wear dresses. And they had to come dressed to every day.
Right.
And with me going to church, I couldn't wear pants. None of that stuff. As a matter of fact, they expected girls to look like girls
Uh-huh.
and boys, and that's what they called it. You can't wear pants. Well, you can, but
Right.
you shouldn't.
Right, right, right.
So I was a tomboy. I ran with the boys.
Nice.
I ran with the boys until I was 18 years old.
So you were an
Oh,
athlete.
I used to ride a bicycle up and down hills with my foot up on the handlebars and no hands.
Okay.
As I said before, I was a boy in the way, like I said, I hung out with my cousins when I was like in my teens, and the people, the other boys would say, "Why is she always hanging out here?" And then they would start talking, trying to talk to me. And my cousins and his one friend would always say, "Leave her alone. She's with us."
So, so now you were talking about your upbringing in school, and the teachers had to wear dresses. And what kind of student were you?
Um, when I was in elementary school, I was a good student because it were two of us who had to prepare the meals for the principal,
Hmm.
and I was one of them. Um, the we had to dress nice, and we at a certain time of day we had to go in. The food was already prepared, and the lady who was in charge would have us to set the platter and everything, and then take it to our principal. So I did pretty good in elementary school and was rather popular. But the thing of it is, I was about to become a gang member.
Tell me about that. How did that work?
Because there were some older girls, they were larger than I was, and I ran with them. And then there was another group who were larger than us. I was very small. I weighed like could have said 50 pounds when I was in eighth grade. But running with the girls made me tough, and we started using a lot of profanity and all that stuff. And the only time I heard profanity was from my father.
Hmm.
But we decided when I don't know, for some reason when I became a certain age, after I graduated from high school, I mean elementary school, I decided that I didn't want to do that anymore.
Right.
It was a different situation, a different environment. And then when I was little, the elementary school was in our neighborhood. We had to walk to school, and I guess it was like 2 or 3 miles.
Hmm.
But the high school was in another city, and we had to ride the buses.
Well,
And we had to wear uniforms. The girls wore blue uniforms when they were up to 10th grade, and then they were white uniforms.
and these were public schools.
These were public schools. I went to Council Elementary School in Inslee. That's a part of Birmingham. And I went to Parker High School, which anybody that lived in Alabama knows about because that's where all the black kids went.
Yeah, because that was my next question. These were because it was segregated at that time. Y'all.
Totally segregated. But we learned more in those days about it because we did take black history, and we learned how to sew, we learned how to cook, we learned how to work in the carpentry shop. We learned dramatics and music, everything, because it was all a black school, and they put everything under one roof. So we learned all kinds of stuff.
And so, how large was the school?
Big. It was, I think, a two-story. It was a two-story, a huge building, and then we had an annex along the side.
Hmm.
So it was pretty big. Might have been 1,000. There was a lot of us, and what we did, we had a lot of shows. We performed a lot. We also had a lot of outside activities. Like parades and carnivals and all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
It was like you see on TV sometimes now in small cities,
Uh-huh.
that type of thing. So I enjoyed my elementary school, enjoyed it a lot, and of course we went to church. I went to First Baptist in um, Inslee. It was called Shallow.
Okay.
And it's still there.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, Martin Luther King's brother used to be the pastor there. He wasn't when I was there.
Not many people talk about Martin Luther King's brother.
Well, all I know is, well, he was the pastor of our church, and I knew where he lived, and he was as far as I was a kid, as far as I know, he was a pretty good pastor. I tell you something that happened at our church once. Um, in those days, nobody was supposed to sit on the pulpit.
Right.
But one day, my pastor, she was very outgoing, pastor's wife, very outgoing. She decided to have a fundraiser.
Hmm.
So she had some of the girls to raise money,
Uh-huh.
and I was included with my best friend. So we won. And she let us wear beautiful evening gowns, like prom dresses, and sit up on the pulpit, and the people had a fit. They didn't do anything while we were there, but she heard from it afterwards.
Wow.
Yep.
How did the men treat the women? Did they treat them like as equals or as second class citizens, or did they treat them with reverence?
It depended on the man. My father was mean, and my father would beat me with a hose pipe.
Wow.
I have a scar where he hit me with a hose, hit me with a thing right down here. And he would beat all of us, but he hit my brother Donald, who's passed now, in the stomach so hard once he bent over and couldn't get up. And that's the first time I remember my mother calling the police on my father. And the police told my father to never hit my brother again.
Did he ever hit him again?
Nope, he didn't, because he was afraid of the police. But
were the cops that came, were they white or black?
white. There were no black policemen at that time.
Mm.
Also, when I was in maybe just before I went to college, my grandfather he was an alcoholic also for a long time. He was born just at the edge of slavery. His mother she had two sons. They were both by an Irishman by the name of Ben Lewis. And the oldest son was killed by the lightning. He was under a tree, and the lightning struck him and killed him. But my grandfather he could read, but he was a very smart man. And he loved to shop. And you're talking about, we never had a problem with food, because my grandfather would go to the store and buy everything. But when he was drinking, he would lose half of it on the way. But the people they loved him so much until they would find whatever they saw him dropping, they'd pick it up and bring it to the house, because they loved Mr. Claude. But one day, Mr. Claude missed his house, and he went and as a matter of fact, the white people who lived in our community, they lived across the street. They lived around the corner. They didn't live on the same side of the street. And so he went to the wrong house around the corner. And there was a young white girl, because at that time, I was much lighter than him. This is sunburn, a lot of sunburn. But I was what you call high yellow in those days. And when he went around the corner, he saw this white girl, and she was my side. So like he used to do me, he was my favorite, and I was his favorite. So he grabbed her and started hugging her, and they called the police, because they said this old man, and he said he wasn't white, said he was some kind of foreigner, because his skin was red. So they arrested my grandfather. And then we went to see him, and the men in the jail had fallen in love with all the young men. And they were, because he was giving them money to buy cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. Because he wasn't afraid, but the police had told my grandparent mother, that he did something bad this time. He fooled around with a white girl. We're going to lock him up for good. And so it was kind of a sad time, but it was on the news. It was on the radio. We didn't have TVs. It was on the radio. It was on the newspaper. And all the people in the neighborhood, including a lot of white people, because one thing, he worked at a steel mill. And at the steel mill, they would call him at midnight, and he'd get up and go to work anytime they needed him. So when they found out about this, they all showed up at his trial. And they all spoke so good for him until the white lady who blamed him for all of this told him that he didn't do it. Said that I can't believe that he meant any harm, because with all these white people liking him, he can't be bad.
Wow.
So they let him out.
So what kind of provider was your father, and what kind of jobs did he do? And
my father worked at the steel mill, had a very good job at the steel mill. In those days, steel mill was one of the best jobs for blacks. The steel mill, the mine, the postal service. So he worked at the steel mill, and he made pretty good money. And then they had what they call a commissary, where You could go and get food, clothing, whatever you want. And that was a fun part of our life because my mother didn't worry about going to the store. She'd give us a little red wagon and send me and my older brother to the commissary. And we had to walk in the hot sun, in the cold, whatever, like several miles. And when we got to the commissary, we'd go in and buy anything, anything we wanted to buy, whatever it was. And and when on the way home, my oldest brother would get tired, and I said, "Well, you have to help because I've been pulling the wagon all the time. You know how kids get arguing."
Yeah.
And he just dropped the handle down and said, "I'm not pulling it anymore."
Ah.
So I had to pull the wagon home. And we had a friend. My mother had a very good friend named Flora. That we would stop at her house and she would give us. She had these big old jars of dill pickles. She would give us water and dill pickles on our way home because that was a long way with all those groceries in that wagon.
Yeah.
But like we whatever we wanted, we had it. Like in that way, we went and bought it ourselves. And they had a medical center where we can go to the dentist, get our eyes done, taken care of, and they had food tickets, and that we would tear up the amount of tickets, pay them, and that was it.
Sometimes it seems like as hard as things were, they were simpler and sometimes in many ways easier than they are now. What do you think about that?
Well, I was thinking about that recently, and I really do believe that things were easy on you if you, what so they speak, stayed in your place. That was it. Because we had, like a lot of the white guys would try to hit on me or try to hit on my girlfriends. They'd come to the house and we watched out looking out for you, but we didn't have anything to do because we knew better.
Right.
But it was like, and then, like I said, they lived across the street from us. They were away, but we didn't go to their house and they didn't come down unless you were working for them.
Right.
And some of them didn't have any more than we had, but we would work for them. I had one pastor of a Presbyterian church. As a matter of fact, they helped me get into college. Now, he was a very good person. Now, if his wife and children were not with him, he let me ride in the front seat of his car. If they were with him, I had to ride in the back. I mean, if she was looking when we left, I had to get in the back seat. And I worked for her. My grandmother and my mother worked for her. And I worked for her as a babysitter. But then one day she asked me to wash the frame of the doors outside. And I didn't want to do that. So she said, well, that's what you're here for, you're here to work. So I said, I'm not washing the frame of your doors outside because I'm supposed to be taking care of the kids. And like the little kids would pinch you sometime, and I would pinch them back. I probably told her that because I was a teenager. So anyway, that's the ducks. I told them they'd be here. Take a little thing and shoot them away. Just holler at them, nigga. Anyway, I left and I didn't go back to work for her anymore. Her name was Mrs. Williamson. But when I got ready to go to college, Mr. Williamson got a group of the little ladies together in his church, and they invited me to a meeting to to speak to them. And I went and spoke to them, and they helped me get into Stillman College. They sent me nice little gifts like food and different things like that while I was there. A little change, that kind of thing. Helped me to get a little amount of tuition. And then I worked in the basement at the school in order to
pay for school.
Yeah, all except what my grandfather could send me.
Now, did your siblings all go to school, college as well?
Not all of them, only two.
Okay.
But they had pretty good jobs. Now, Don worked for the railroad. That's the one who's passed. And Grover was a bus driver in New York. And who's it good? Victor worked for the school board in California.
But they started off at General Motors.
As who?
Didn't they work
Victor?
in Detroit?
That Frank did. Mhm. Frank worked at no, it was country club in New York because my uncle was the over all the black employees. So he would hire my brothers whenever they went to Detroit for a visit. Sometimes they would stay and sometimes they wouldn't. But his name was Levy Gregory.
So what was your degree? What you graduated from college? What was your major and your?
My major was in business, and when I graduated, I came home and couldn't get a job in business. I tried, but and I had gone to business college one semester, and then I decided to go to college, and I couldn't get a job. So then I started teaching.
Oh,
So I
outstanding.
taught school.
So before we get too far, let's go back to high school just for a moment. Did they have like proms and things like that?
Oh
Let's
yes.
talk about your boyfriends and
Okay. I had boyfriends when I was in high school.
uh,
I think about some of them now. This really tall, husky guy named his last name was Smiley, and I think they in the AME church. I see a lot of them as pastors and things in the AME church. I haven't seen them in years, and I had a lot. But my thing, I was invited to proms, but because my mother had very, she would buy. Now my mother bought my prom dress. She bought the prom dress for Alabama. I mean my high school, and I didn't want her to do it. So I told her I wasn't going to the prom because I wasn't going to have her spending her money. And the same thing at college. And Billy will tell you about this one. This guy had a girlfriend, but he insisted he wanted to take me to the prom. So I told him that he had to take Bonnie, that's his girlfriend, and he refused to take her. He wanted to take me, so what I told him I'd go. But when prom time, I was mean. I didn't go. And the people made fun of him for a long time. As a matter of fact, we kept in touch even since we've been here with he and Bunny, because Bunny was a friend of mine, and I was tired of him. So that's the way I solved that problem.
so now, how long did you know your husband?
Oh boy. I knew Billy. Well, Billy and I was both active in school. We were in ballet class. We were in Spanish class. We were in a lot of different classes
In high
and
school?
activities. This is college
Oh, okay.
with my
College,
husband.
okay.
No, I didn't know him until I was in college.
Okay.
And we were in a lot of activities, but we didn't talk to each other. And I remember they got me into playing Cleopatra. Now, mind you, I weighed less than 90 pounds. And I told him, no, I'm not going to do that because I'm too skinny. And so Miss Land said, I'll tell you what, if you don't, we're not going to have the play and everybody's going to be mad with you. So I played it and I did pretty good. But that's the way I was in college. I wouldn't be a cheerleader because I thought I was too skinny and everybody would say, no, you're not. Because they were asking me to be, I didn't want to be. But the thing I did, I made a big thing when I was in college, and I was supposed to be the what do you call it, school queen of the
Prom queen. Of
prom,
school.
yeah, the prom queen,
Okay.
and it was two of us, and the other one we still talk now. As a matter of fact, I heard from her not too long ago, but she was a very attractive girl, and but she had a limp, and I had my little group, and she was in another group, and then there was a president who had to break the tie because we tied. So he broke the tie in her favor. I didn't win it, but I did come up as campus cutie. I have the pictures in there. Some of the campus cuties are on the campus,
Oh, I would love to see those.
Yeah, we had. I used to like to play tennis when I was in college. I was in the Bible groups. I was in quite a few activities when I was in college.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And back then, I know the church really played a major part in the community as far as helping people out.
In my neighborhood, people were just They knew everybody. Everybody knew everybody. Nobody, if anybody needed anything, there was somebody who had it or who gave. My grandfather had a garden. He didn't have any land, but he rented land, and he would grow all kinds of vegetables, and he raised chickens and he raised hogs, and they would kill them, and then the stuff was spread all over. They'd cure it with salt, you know, and then they would anybody in the neighborhood who needed it, it was there, and everywhere he lived, he had a garden in his backyard, you know, that kind of thing. So, and another thing, like the reason everybody loved him, because he was always giving. Miss such and such needs something, he would go by the house, knock on the door, and give it to her. That kind of thing.
Now,
That's the way they were.
now, was this grandfather on your mother's side or your
He
father's?
was my mother's father. I never knew my father's father.
So, did your father stay with your mother all throughout the life, or did they?
Well, off and on. They would separate for a little while, and he'd go by her other house, my grandparent house, and beat her up. He would beat her. One time he beat her up, and my grandfather ran him down the street with a chair. And then another time, we lived around the corner from my grandfather, and my grandfather went down and beat him up because he was beating my mom. That kind of thing. One time, my mother stabbed my father. Yeah, he came in, and I don't know if he was beating me up or what he was doing. My father was sexually abusive to me.
Okay.
And it was a long time before I would talk to him. My mother didn't know it, but some of the neighbors knew it. And she found out when I was grown and married and had children. But he came home, and he was after, what he would do, he would lock everybody out the house. He'd come home like about, on his payday, he'd come home like about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. And then that's when he would start acting crazy. Sometimes when my grandmother lived a long ways from us, we would get up out of bed with our nightgowns on and go to my grandmother's house. And that was a long way for little kids walking the street in the pre hours of the morning. And so my mother was tired of it, I guess. So they were fighting, and he pushed her up behind the door, and she stabbed him. And the lady next door to us came over and got a blanket, and they took him to the doctor. But he didn't press charges because he knew it was wrong.
Wow. So now you met your husband in college.
Yes.
Been married ever since, and in love all these years.
I don't know about that.
Well, we're gonna let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, Billy and I we went a lot of activities together, as I told you before. And so one day a group of us went across the street to the little cafe across from the school. And I was with somebody else, and Billy was with another girl. And we went around across, and we ate or dinner or whatever. And so, but on the way back, Billy and I had such an interesting conversation until we came back together. And so did the other two. Anyway, that's when I first met him. I seen him out because you couldn't miss my husband. My husband wore lime pants and lime shirts and tan pants or vice versa. His hair was long, real long, and long curly hair, and he was different from most kids at the school, and so I really wasn't looking for him to be my boyfriend. But we met, and then I went home one weekend, and when I looked up, there he was. And I want to know why you followed me around, you know, that kind of thing. Because I already had a boyfriend at home. So when he we didn't have any serious relationship, not ever. And then when I looked up, he had an engagement ring. And this was like a few weeks after I met him. And I said, I'm not going to marry you. I'm not ready to marry him. I haven't finished school yet. Because, see, I had gone to one college for a year or so. And when I left that college, I went to Stillman. So I was intending to finish Stillman. I came out of Stillman like in about 2.5 years. But so what happened is we got together, and started dating, and he took me down to Tuscaloosa to see his whole family, the whole bit. And so when we graduated that June, and I told him, I said, I'm going to go and find me a job because my mother, she needed help. And my mother had just bought a house, and Denise knows about, where they bombed it and burned it because she moved into a white neighborhood. Mm.
Tell them about how your father passed away, and that's where the insurance money and everything came from.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, but get it back to our marriage and come back to, so we graduated, he graduated cum laude, and that was in June, and we married in June, like about the next week.
Wow.
And
So
we had known each other about 6 months.
How old were you at that time?
24, because see, I had stayed out of college for a year. I lived in New York for a year.
Okay.
Because my plans was to be a doctor. My principal at the high school told me that I was good in physics and that I should go to Mahara, and I applied. But then when I was working, and you have to work in the hospital,
Yeah.
every time they took me into, I had to work. Oh, it's fine.
Turn it off.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I had to assist in the surgery.
Uh-huh.
And I know I had not a principal, but a teacher who told me, my wife is coming surgery, I want you to be good and take care of it. I said, okay. But when I woke up, I was out in the hall on a gurney
Oh, wow.
several times. So they found out that I was allergic to ether.
Oh.
I wasn't going to be a nurse and I wasn't going to be a doctor.
So now what they use ether for back then?
That was what they used, what do you call it, anesthesia.
They use it as anesthesia?
Hmm.
That's interesting.
I was allergic to it, so that was the end of that.
Wow.
That was a mess. That was heartbreaking, though.
So then, and is that when you decided to go into education? You started teaching?
I started going to education after I graduated from college, and I couldn't get a job in business right away. And I wanted to start a business, but Billy wasn't for that right at that point. So I decided to look for a teaching job. Now, I went to be interviewed one day. I worked in a private school, but I went to be interviewed for a school district. And the same day, the people were impressed. The next day, they told me they didn't have a job, but they would call me. But the next day, they called me. And they told me that we have a teacher who's going off on leave, and we need somebody to take her place. And she was in special education. I said, I'll do it. And I was working the next day.
Nice.
That's why I said I've had some good times and I had some bad times.
Yeah.
Because that was one of those good times. They needed somebody. They said they were impressed with me, so I got a job just like that.
And how long did you teach?
I taught at that time 7 years. And
What subjects?
I was in elementary,
Okay.
a little bit of
So
everything.
everything.
I taught from 3rd grade to 6th grade.
And
Sure.
that was down in Alabama,
That was in California,
on California. So
in Compton.
okay. And
You've
those-
heard of Compton, right?
Oh yeah.
But Compton was a wonderful place at that point.
Yeah.
Compton was, they had new built homes and nice social families, and the people were very interested in their children.
Black neighborhood.
It was, basically black
Nice
and Spanish.
Social families.
Because I had to teach children how to play.
In their children.
What's that when you bump it on your head? I forgot
It
it.
was,
The ball
and
game.
Spanish.
But
Because I
the
had to
Hispanic
teach
got
children
Oh,
how to
soccer.
soccer.
Was the
They taught me how to play soccer, and I had to teach to the
base
kids.
the ball game.
But
Being an athlete. Soccer.
Soccer.
well, it was.
They taught me how to play
I was
soccer,
pretty good,
and I had to
you know,
teach
with
to
the
the
kids.
Ah.
And then when
Being an
I
athlete, I guess it just came
finally I
natural.
decided we had a controversy at our school, and all the people
And
were afraid to
then
say it
when
because
I,
they were striking, and
Finally, I decided
some
we
people
had
wouldn't strike because they were afraid they were going to lose their
controversy at our
job. and they were
And all the
mistreating
people
us.
were afraid to
So
stand because they were striking. And,
being me,
some people
I
were
was always the
striking
type of
because they
person
were
who
afraid
spoke
they were going
out
to lose
and
their
didn't
job.
say what,
And they were mistreating us.
And so
So being
they said,
the type,
well,
being
if you
me,
be our spokesperson,
I
we'll
was
stand
always the type of person that
behind you
spoke out and
100%.
didn't say it,
Okay,
you know.
I'm the spokesperson,
And
right?
so
We go to this meeting,
they said, well,
stand
if
up
you be
and
our
I speak,
spokesperson, we'll
and that was
stand
the end of that.
behind you 100%.
So
Okay, I'm the
next
spokesperson,
day,
right?
the,
We go to
the
this
principal
meeting,
called me into the
and I
office,
stand up and I
and we were
speak.
talking.
And that was
So
the
I
end
told
of
him, I
that.
said, you know what?
So
I don't know
next day,
what is going on. He said,
the
Miss
principal
Archibald,
called me into
we
the
don't want
office,
you to leave. We
and
want
we
you
were
to stay,
talking. So
but
I
we
told
want
him,
you
I
to
said, you know what?
change your attitude.
I don't know
I
what is
said,
going on. He said, Miss
I'm
Archibald,
not changing
we
my
don't want
attitude
you
because
to
that's
leave.
what
We
we
want you
feel,
to
and
stay, but we want
So
you to change
I told him,
your
I said, I tell you
attitude.
what.
I said,
Now I walked out of my room
I'm not
today, right?
changing my attitude
I had
because
my
that's
purse
what
with
we
me.
feel, and you know.
I walked out to the car,
So
and he was with me when I
told him,
walked to
said,
the
tell
car
you
lot.
what.
When I got to the car
I
lot,
walked out of my room today, right?
he said, Miss
I had
Archibald,
my
don't
purse
leave
with
this
me.
way.
I walked
I
out
said,
to the
I'm
car,
leaving
and he
and
was
I'm not
with me
coming
when I
back.
walked to the car lot.
That was after 7
When I got
years.
to the car lot,
So I went home,
he said,
and
Miss
I didn't go
Archibald,
back.
don't
I
leave
left
this
all
way.
of my belongings in the
I said, I'm
room,
leaving and I'm
everything.
not coming back.
I never, and I had their
That was after
keys.
7 years.
And they
So I
paid
went
me.
home,
They know they were
and I
wrong
didn't go
because they
back. I
paid me
left
for
all
3
my
years.
belongings in the room,
Yeah,
everything.
they paid me.
And I had their keys.
They didn't give me all of my
And they
salary,
paid me, they know
but
they
it
were
was
wrong,
they paid me
because they
most of
paid
my
me for
salary
3
for the,
years.
for 3 years.
Yeah.
So
They
they know
paid
they were
me,
wrong, and they could
they
if they
didn't
had
give me
fired
all
me,
of
there
my
would have been a
salary.
lot of
But it
controversy.
was, they paid
So
me
they
most
did
of my salary
So
for
did you ever go back in the teaching?
for 3 years.
Not
So they
there.
know they were
What I
wrong.
did,
And they could,
I
if they had fired me, there would have been a lot of
what do you call
controversy.
those
So they
children that?
So did you ever go back into teaching?
No, I did
Not
foster.
there. What I did,
No, I did
I,
foster care. I had
what do you
6
call
regular
those,
foster children
that
and 300 special
no, I
care.
did foster.
Special ed?
No,
And I kept them
did
over
foster
3
care.
years.
I had 6 regular
The
foster children and
but the other
300
thing
special
is I had kids that came to
and
your
I
country
kept
from
them
another
over 3
country.
years.
What do you call them?
The but the
Exchange
other,
students.
thing,
I had
kids that came
exchange
over
students
from your
also.
country from
Only
another
had
country.
one. She was from
What do
France.
you call them?
Her name was Anne,
Exchange students?
and Anne was a
Exchange
mess.
students.
And
I had
they
exchange
called
students also.
showers
Only had one.
douches,
She was from France.
and she didn't like to.
That was Anne.
She didn't want to
And
take a
Anne
bath.
was a
She
mess.
smoked.
And in
She was a mess.
They called
But
showers douches.
basically the other kids I
Because
had
she didn't like to
3 Hispanic
she didn't want to
sisters,
take a bath. She smoked.
um,
The douche,
She
yeah.
was a
one
mess.
half
But
black and half
basically the other
Hispanic,
kids I had
and one
3
Jewish
Hispanic sisters,
daughter, and then another
one
Hispanic,
half
not a sister to the
black
others.
and half
I had
Hispanic,
6 of them,
and one
and we
Jewish
lived like I raised them
and then
royally
another Hispanic.
because my kids were in
not a
college,
sister to the others.
and I had to
I had
take a
6 of
vacation whenever they came
And
from
we
college
lived like
because I needed a
raised
break.
them royally.
But the kids went
Because my
to
kids were in
um,
college.
they went to
And
high
I had to
school
take
with
a
me,
vacation whenever they came
and
from college because I needed a break.
I took them on
But the
trips.
kids went to,
And people would tell me at the
um,
church, because I took
they
them to
went to high
church,
school with
and they said,
me.
"You're gonna go in the poorhouse
And,
where you raising those kids and spending your money, you know,
I
like,
took them on
because they had
trips.
everything they
And
needed."
people would tell me at the church
And
'cause I took
my
them to
house
church.
was like
And they
the
said, "You're
Brady
gonna go in
Bunch
the
house.
poorhouse
That's what
where
the
you
kids
raise
used to
those
call
kids
it.
and spending your money, you know, like."
Because
Because they
at
had
holidays,
everything they needed.
you know, the big dining room
And
table, you remember
my
that?
house was like
That big
the
dining room
Brady
table,
Bunch
it would be
house.
full
That's
of
what the kids used to
community
call it.
children. And a
Because
little boy named
the
Jeffrey was
holidays,
always at my
big
house to
dining room
eat.
table,
Then I had all my
that
foster
big dining
kids,
room table
and they
would be
loved my
full of
juice.
community children. And the
They
little boy
they
named
used to,
Jeffrey was
you know, I
always
used to
at my
cook
house to eat.
greens and
Then I
stuff.
had all my foster
They grew to
kids.
love it.
And
As a
they
matter of fact,
loved
when
my
one of them got
juice.
married, she brought her husband over so I could show her how to make
They
it.
used to, you know, I used to cook greens and stuff.
My
They
father,
grew to love it.
like I
As a matter of
said,
fact, when one of them got married,
he
she
worked
brought her
long
husband
enough
so
to
I could show her how
payday,
to
and
make it.
he was get his thing going. And like I said, he had lots of girlfriends. My mother had us running the street, following him all over the place. But anyway, he had gone to the hospital because he was having problems with his heart, and my brother refused to go to see him. So, but I did. I walked up a hill in Fairfield, and we lived in Ensley, to see my dad. And my brother would say, "I don't know why you're going to see him because he's mean to you anyway." But he was so glad to see me. And one day he came after, I guess, about a month. He was up and about, and his next door neighbor came over to get him, and he wasn't supposed to drink anymore, but they got drunk. And he came home that night and drunk, and he got in the bed. He hit his head on the bedpost and went to bed. And the next day, all he was doing, he loved. Now he had treated the older ones of us, which was 5, terribly. But the 2 younger ones, he treated them like kings and queens. He would always bring them something back when he came from work. Bring them candy, chewing gum, whatever, a little treat. Those were his favorite children. And when he got sick, anyway, I took care of everybody was thinking that the little girl would belong to me, but she wasn't my little girl. She was my sister.
All right.
But anyway, he went to work that night after telling them what he was going to bring them, and went up on a high pole or somewhere they were pouring oil down. That's when he was sick in the hospital. That was another thing that was wrong. He had messed up his foot at the plant, and so he was up there fixing something, and he fell. Some people say he had a blood clot or aneurysm or something while he was up there, and that was caused him to fall. And so the next morning, this was on a Friday night, that Saturday morning, 2 white guys knocked on our door, and they were the guys who, excuse me, they were from the steel mill. So they asked for, I'm the oldest child, but they asked for my oldest brother. My older brothers were out of town. They were not there. They were in New York or Detroit. My brother Vic, with her father, was the one who went to the door. And they told Vic that my father had passed. And Vic couldn't take it, you know. But anyway, we went to tell my mother, and she just broke down. But she didn't break down in grief. She broke down, it's like, thank God you heard my prayer. That's just the way she took it. You know, she said, you took all this burden off of me. But anyway, he, as Denise was saying, he left her $10,000. That was his insurance. And she found a house in what is called now Fountain Heights, up past Smithfield in Birmingham. And she bought the house, and as soon as she moved in it, they burned it. No, they bombed it. And then it didn't damage that much, so the next week they burned it, because they didn't want her there. Wouldn't want any black people in the
So where
neighborhood.
did she go?
She went, got the house fixed, and she's still there. She lived there.
Yeah, but one $10,000, you got to just keep what you bought with.
That's why she lived there. And that house is still on the computer. Denise looked it up before. And she still, well, the family still owns the house.
Wow. Bet it's worth a lot now.
No, those houses, the neighborhood was down. It went down. It used to be a really nice neighborhood, and then for some reason, a lot of times when we fill up a neighborhood, it goes completely down.
Right.
And this one went completely down. And it's not a lot of homes. People die, and they leave them empty.
Okay.
Billy had been in service, right? And so we left, we decided, and he was in seminary, so he had gotten a scholarship from in Tuscaloosa. And he went to Richmond, Virginia as part of the Union Theological Seminary. And there he went to school for a year. They were paying everything for him. But Billy is this type of person, he doesn't like people to pay everything for him. He wanted to do it himself. So I said, Billy, don't leave now, because, you know, they're taking care of everything for you. But then, anyway, we left Richmond and we went to New Mexico. It was supposed to be, we went to Roswell and what's the Albuquerque. We were supposed to go to Albuquerque. He was supposed to get a job. But I think when he got there, they saw that he was black and he didn't get hired. So then we moved to Roswell. He had a brother there. And my brother, her father, was with us. He went everywhere I went. because we were very close. And I hate to say that, I don't like to say this to people because they think, but Victor was the darkest one in my family. And people would say that he didn't seem to be a part of my family. So I took him under my wings, and whatever he needed or whatever he wanted to do, I helped him. So when we went to New Mexico, he was with me. And so Denise was there. She was about 6 months old then. But we didn't get the job, and Billy got a job, I think, at a supermarket. And I tell you something funny about his brother. His brother didn't like, his brother worked at a bus stop station, like Greyhound. And the people would go hunting. They come there to visit and go hunting. Then they would put a lot of the meat in the freezer, and they would tell him that he could have it because they didn't want it anyway. And so he brought some of the meat home one day because he asked me, do you like, what do they call it? Venison. And he said, oh, nope, I don't eat that kind of stuff. So they said, well, there's lots of it here. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So he brought some home one day. And so he told me, said, you can have this if you all like this kind of stuff. I don't like it. So I cooked the meat while he was gone. And when he came, he just ate. And he ate, and he ate a bill of italian. He started laughing at him. He said, why are you laughing at? He said, because you having a good time with that bill. So you said you didn't eat it, but you had a good time with that business. But anyway, but I tell you what, we left Mexico. And right next door to us in Mexico, New Mexico, there was a lady and her husband. He was a corporal in service. But he was from Birmingham. They were from Birmingham, from my hometown. And so we got to be very good friends. And then we stayed there, but the only reason I couldn't live there was because they had dust storms. You could look up the street right now, and you could see it coming, and you better move. And if you had washed, forget about it, because you had to wash again. And then the big ant, about this big red and black ant, was driving her crazy because she liked to be in the dirt. So I told Billy, I don't like this place. I'm going back to Alabama. You do what you want to do, because he didn't want to go back. So that's when he came out here. Came to California. Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's an interesting
And
story.
why California? I mean, I knew you guys had a lot of friends when we were growing up, all the parties and things, but
Well, we didn't have any of those friends in California. I don't know, but you have to ask him that. I don't know exactly why he decided to come to California. But he did, and then I followed him like about a few months later. Okay. And we didn't have a place to stay, but he found a room in somebody's house, and we lived there for a while. And this lady she wasn't clean.
But now California was a lot more easier for black people at that time?
Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the reasons?
That might have been. And then he might have, I had some friend, I don't know if he had knew somebody there or not, if he knew somebody. I'm not sure. I don't know about that.
What year was that about?
61.
That was in 61?
Yeah, and anyway, we left there and we came to California, and we lived in this house with these men named Mr. Woods. And that's where the little girl used to live that she used to play with, across the street. But like I said, the lady, we couldn't stay with her, so I told Billy, we got to move. So we moved in with Mr. Woods, and we stayed with Mr. Woods for quite a while, because he was a single man, and he didn't have, he lived by himself, and he had a nice sized little house, you know. And so we moved in with him. I didn't start working until after my third child was born.
Okay.
I put it this way. I did work in a private school, and I worked there for quite a while. When I mean quite a while, maybe 2 or 3 years. But for some reason, we decided we wanted to move because we lived in Watts. You've heard of Watts? Oh, you live in California. We lived in Watts, and Watts was nice. That's what I was going to say. Watts was a great place. My kids went to 116th Street School. She did. And the schools were nice, and the neighbors were nice. But for some reason, I don't know what the reason was, we decided to move. But because I know we had a couple of friends who moved in with us, with their 2 children. And as soon as that one day Billy decided to ask them to help with the rent or whatever because they weren't paying anything and they were with us a few months. And he decided the next day they were gonna move. They were gonna move out. So that's what they did. They moved out. And then, but what happened when we moved on 115th Street and Hoover? Oh, it was a better neighborhood at that point before the freeway came. The riot came like a few days later. We had just the Watch riot. Watch riot came as soon as we moved. And we were thankful because we were out of it. But if we had stayed there about a month longer, we would have been a part of it.
Now, why was there a riot? What happened?
Because there were some black guys. The police had stopped some black guys, and I don't know if they were resisting or what, but they wanted to beat them up and be nasty to them. And I don't think they at that time I don't think they shot anybody, but they were just beating them.
I thought
Yeah.
it was over the black guy whose brains they blew out into his pregnant wife's lap.
I don't know. I remember that, but I don't think that this was.
But they
We-
were born.
But anyway, all I know is that it was a mess. It was a total mess, and they just. It was like we thought the whole world was going to come to an end because we'd never seen anything like that before. I lived in Alabama, and I've never seen anything like that.
Wow. So what kind of activism did you participate in, like from that time to Martin
Oh,
Luther
I
King?
was I was over the NAACP in Inglewood, California. I also went to Washington D.C. and marched. So I did, and I was
So
very.
what time frame was that you were over NAACP?
Ooh, when was that? I can't even remember the year now, but it was while I was living. But I was living in Windsor Hills then, and I can't think of the year. It had to be in the '60s.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand that they did that. The NA because I was a member of the NAACP.
Uh-huh.
They did stuff like that. They went and marched on Washington, on D.C. Because I know that something was going on in Bakersfield. We went to Bakersfield too. That kind of thing.
So who was leading those particular, like the Children's March? Who led the Children's March?
It's been so long. I got papers and things, but I don't remember. Do you remember that? I don't. I remember. All I know, I went and we went to the United Methodist place where their cooperation is, and we took the children, and that's where I saw Cicely Tyson at that march, that particular
Now,
march.
did you participated in the March on Washington?
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
well, we all, this is a group of us who went because we wanted to be a part of it. And there were a lot of people there, and they did what they said they did. They walked and protested just like they're doing now. But they were all, basically, they were peaceful, that kind of thing. And I do know the worst thing I saw when I was there was this black guy from Africa and a white woman, and they were at this hotel. Well, he followed her to the hotel because she had done something to cut him off or something, and he went in his back trunk and got a baseball bat. He said to kill that lady, but the people intervened and stopped it. But I thought I've lived in California. I never seen nothing like this in my life, never.
Wow.
But yep, we used to go to that train station and eat. What's the name of it? We were at a hotel not too far from the train station.
Oh,
Well,
Union
the
Station.
Union Station. That's what we ate at in the evening.
A lot of nice places to eat there.
Oh, I
And
know.
now.
Oh, I've been there. I love D.C.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite places.
Yeah. So what were your impressions of the speakers that day, and just your impression of the day itself?
Now, this wasn't the March on Washington with Martin Luther King.
Oh no, it wasn't Martin Luther King there.
Oh, which one was this?
It was that they just had different people, different groups would have March on Washington. because I've gone to two different marches. One was a children's march,
Okay.
and then I went to the one. I was very active back then. I was active with my sorority. I was active in my neighborhood. As a matter of fact, somebody told me the other day that they were going to, and I don't want them to do it. They were going to have my name engraved because I had a Rose closed in California.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened on the street where we live,
Mm-hmm.
on Orchid Drive, it was like just like this street. You can come in on either end.
Mm-hmm.
You come on this end or that end. You can come to the street from off the main street.
Mm-hmm.
And on that street, you could come in off of Overhill
Mm-hmm.
onto our street on two ends.
Mm-hmm.
One end, the cars, the people would, drug dealers or whatever if there was around, would hit that Overhill right off of Slauson and speed around the corner. And we had children who were playing out there. At that time, there were a lot of children. And there was it was a mixed community at that point. So they would speed around that corner, and we were afraid they were going to hurt our children. So we got together and called a meeting, and we formed an association. And we had a lot of people on our side. We had the police department, we had the Congress people, all those people on our side. They came to our meetings and everything. And so we did a thing on a drug dealer's house like that too. We had them taken out. And they would call me the crazy lady because when the drug dealer was taken out, and they called me early in the morning, and my telephone started ringing, and dogs were barking. So I said, "What's going on?" Just kept ringing, and they said they just broke into this house down the street and said it's a drug dealer's house. He didn't live in the neighborhood, but he had prostitution and drugs in the neighborhood. It was in two or three nice neighborhoods up in the Baldwin Hills, Windsor Hills area. That's where he lived in the valley.
All right.
And I got up, and they said the police are there. They knocked the front window out, and they took that thing and they pulled it out. You know how they pulled it? Okay. And so they stayed there all day. They arrested several women there, the whole bit. But then with the street closing, when the people, they called me up and told me, say, we don't do that. So we've never closed a street just because people ask us to ever. So I said, well, we have a problem here. Our children are in danger. We want the street closed. So they closed the street.
Wow.
Then they
You're
came,
the one that started that.
when they came, and they came around that day to put it up, I walked around there, and they said, oh, we know who you are. You Miss Archibald. So I don't know if anybody else have tried anything like that or not, but I know that we were responsible for getting that fence up there.
No, that's interesting because there are some streets like that are closed off.
This one is still, as a matter of fact, the man across the street renting opened up a barbecue space right in the closed off area behind that thing. His truck, he got a big old barbecue pit thing
Serves people.
on his truck.
Now, did Mr. Archibald, was he an activist with you, or was he just basically taking care of the house? And,
No, he was an activist on his own. He was more of a business man, into everything, into selling boats and driving limousines and everything. He was a probation officer. He was a city commissioner.
City commissioner?
And for the city of Los Angeles, in the war on poverty.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were very, very active in LA. Very active. We had lots of friends and acquaintances, and we traveled a lot. We've been to 6 continents more than one time. You know, I never wanted to go to 7. When we went to Australia, they told us we have planes that fly over and you can just see it. I didn't even want to fly over because I don't like cold weather like that. And if they had to land, I would have been in trouble.
Which countries have you been to that you thought were just really, it was really a good experience?
Ooh, wow. I went to Africa recently, and I loved it. I enjoyed that trip. I loved New Zealand. Australia, what I'm trying to think of, what's the name of the main Australian city,
Sydney?
Sydney. I didn't like it too much. The people were okay. They were nice, and when we got to the door, they escorted us. They came in, and and if we wanted information on something, they were right with us. They gave us all kind of gifts, but there was something missing. I know we got on a bus trip once, and the man took us off and left us. You know, they kind. I don't think they're quite ready for what's supposed to be there, or what integration means. You know, but they were not mean. They were not nasty. But New Zealand, they have that other race of people there. The what do they call? I can't really remember.
Aborigines.
They have them, but you didn't see them. They are in us. They are in Sydney,
Yeah.
and Sydney did not allow us to go there, and they didn't allow us to see. You didn't see any of those people. Now in New Zealand, it's the what's that Hawaiian sounding group?
Samoa?
Not Samoa, some Mongos, or it's a the Mangos or something. But anyway, it's a group that you would think they were Hawaiian, but they're not. But anyway, they have their own government, and they're part. No, they are part of the regular government of New Zealand. They're part of the society, and you see them. They work there, all that kind of thing. Mm.
Oh, no, I'm Googling that.
But they are part of, and those people. It's just like, kind of like family. But New Zealand but Sydney wasn't.
You have stayed married to the same man.
Be 62 in June.
62 years in June.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. That's good.
Thank you.
All the ups and downs. Hopefully a lot more ups and downs.
Both. Yeah, it's been. It was both. And like you were asking me for my favorite one. This is one of my favorite times in my life, and naturally I'd be concerned because my husband is 91 years old. He'll be 92 his birthday, but we get along better than we ever have. We have to bless him out every once in a while because he's stubborn, very, very stubborn. He wants it his way. That's what it is. But he's a good man, and he's in good health, very good health, even at his age. And the funniest thing about it, the doctor told me when he started getting older is that don't let him bend over. A lot of people bend over and they get where they can't stand up anymore. So we would go out and he would start slumping, and I start singing, stand up for Jesus. And he get mad. You always telling me what to do. No, I'm not. That's what the doctor told me, not to let you bend. And you notice he's not bent over now because this was a few years ago. But like I said, we've been separated once or twice, and like one time I wanted to be an attorney and was getting ready to go to law school, but he didn't want me to go because he was into a lot of stuff himself. And I guess and one thing we have done, we have stayed close with our kids. Now I worked and he worked, and like every summer, not every summer, but a lot of summers. Okay, one year we would take the whole family on a vacation. We drove across country, we flew or did whatever. Then the next year, the two of us would go, and then the next year we went our separate ways. I'd go with my girlfriends if he wanted to go somewhere, whatever. That's the way we tried. We made it so we have a break, that kind of thing. But like I said, and we get along very well, And he takes good care of me, and I take good care of him, even now, because I'll serve him at his desk. You don't have to get up and come to the kitchen table anymore to eat.
That's a beautiful love story.
I do. And he'll serve me on that couch right there,
As it should be.
even at this point. So we do. And I don't drive anymore, so he does the driving, and nothing comes in the way if I want to go somewhere.
That's so beautiful.
Mhm.
And so how many children did you have?
3.
3?
He has 4.
Okay.
He has four children. The three with us, and then he has a daughter. He's been married before.
Okay.
He was married at 18.
Oh, okay.
And he went in service. And so when he came back, his wife was expecting. She had the child. No, I take that back. When his wife was expecting, um, she had the child, and he was still in service. So her mother took her and the child back to Cleveland with them, and they've been there ever since. So, and then, like I said, he went back to school because he was like me, he was like 28 when he graduated because he had been to several colleges, you know. And then he got his VA stuff and finished.
Okay.
I love all three of my children dearly, and you know what? These kids grew up in Wonderland because they never had to want for anything.
Uh-huh.
They've always had nice homes to live in. They've always had basically everything they needed,
Right.
everything that they needed. They travel. They now they get on my case about the schools they went to. She and Don, because Don wanted to go to, was it Clark? And I wanted her to go, but her father didn't. He wanted her to go to his alma mater, and he wanted her to go too. But they both wound up going to Stillman because that's what he wanted. I didn't have anything to do with that. I really was against it because Dawn wanted to be a veterinarian, and that's what I wanted her to be.
Right.
You know, so I didn't have anything. But then when my son came along, my husband, when he decided he was in music. He was in California Boys Choir and travel all from the time he was 11 until he was a teenager. He was never at home. And they've been all over the country. And so when he got ready to go to college, he decided he wasn't going to Stillman. He told Dad, if I have to go to Stillman, I'm not going. So he wanted to go to USC, which is where he did go, because he was in music and he took music. He started playing the piano when he was, I say 11, he says 4. He knows better than me because he never took any lessons.
Okay. Do you play any instruments?
Me? Nope. But my family does. I have an uncle who used to play with some of the jazz people. He blew the trumpet. And I have an aunt who could play anything she heard on the radio, that kind of thing.
Piano.
Yeah, piano. And so that's where I'm sure that came from. But me, I used to sing a bit, different like that. But that's about it. And I used to model and I used to dance. And different things that we had for the schools and the churches and all that kind of stuff, that kind of thing. But I forgot what I was talking about now.
We're talking about the children.
When he went to USC, and then he went to, what's that school out in? Redlands. But then he started getting such good One thing about him, he started working for people without getting paid to learn whatever.
So just learning.
And then when he started getting the jobs, he quit Redlands in his senior year. So he didn't finish college, but the two girls did. And, my children were pretty smart. Now, she said she wasn't, but she won a scholarship from high school, and she won top 10 in the nation from Alabama University. Alabama, what school, Alabama?
I don't remember that.
Yes, you did. And ask your dad. Without asking me, ask him, he'll tell you. You won top 10 in the nation for, what is it, the Army thing? Why? What do you call it?
ROTC.
ROTC. I don't know how come you don't remember it. You can ask him without asking me. But you were top 10 in the nation because we were having a fit. We were so proud. And then, like I said, she went up to a general, not a general, but colonel. You made the generals just so you don't do that being dumb. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, like I said, all my kids had lots of friends. The friends came to the house, all of them. If I didn't like them, they knew it. If I did like it, they knew it. I was very strict. Always been very strict. But it's not that they didn't go any place to do anything because they did. But I was always the type of the mother who, you can't go this place or go that place, or you can't wear this, that, or the other. That was my way of being a parent. Grandchildren. I had 3 great grandchildren, and Billy had 5. He still has 2, no 3, and I have 1 because 2 passed
Uh-huh.
to the 60. And it was like almost committing suicide. That was the only time I ever thought of committing suicide besides when I was little, was then.
Wow.
Because you don't know why. You wonder, how could this happen? How could it happen to you? My grandson, Nate, was a perfect child. What I mean by that, he was always respectful. I took them all to church because Billy is a minister.
Oh.
Oh yeah, he's a minister. And so I took them all to church every Sunday. We participated, and he had a beautiful voice. He loved to sing. But something happened with the wrong people getting involved in drugs. And he got sick. And my second grandson was very smart. No, he was the first. Nate was the second. He was very smart, and sometimes I think a little bit too smart because you couldn't tell him anything.
Yeah.
He wanted to do what he wanted to do when he got ready to do it,
Right.
no matter what.
Right.
And that was his problem. My granddaughter started off life too early, and I think because when her mother lost her son, she turned everything over back to Dominique. Her name is Dominique, and my daughter's name is Dominique.
Uh-huh. Right.
And Dominique was allowed to do whatever she wanted when she got ready.
Right.
And she started having children at an early age, even though she could have gone to any school she wanted to go to. Very smart. She could get up in church and pray or preach or whatever and bring the church down. That kind of thing. But after her brother died, she got in with the wrong crowd. She was fine until she got into high school. And that's when it all came down around her. And it wasn't, because she was allowed to do what she wanted, I think her mother felt like, I lost one child, I don't want to lose another one. And so she poured all that love on what she thought was love,
Right.
on that daughter. And she took advantage.
Oh.
So we moved we went to Alabama, my husband and I, and bought a house. We bought a condo first and sent for them so they have a change of an environment. But we got one of the best schools in Birmingham, for a private school for her to go to.
Right.
But because she didn't want to go, her mother didn't make her. It was her way. And so from then on, she started going spiraling down. She has 3 children, her living children. She probably had about 5 or 6.
Wow.
And she has 3, and she got in trouble with her boyfriend and a gun. So she's on probation now.
Dominique.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Beautiful girl. Beautiful. But, and smart, but like I said, that's what happened.
Yeah, it's just part of life.
Yeah, that's it. Billy has 2 grandchildren. I mean, 2 great grand. Two boys, grand, and 2 girls, great grand. I don't know too much about them because we talk to them on the phone and we look at them through, the pictures and things on the computer and whatever. But we haven't had much to do with them because they live in Wisconsin. so we don't see them. We just talk to them every once in a while, or we see them on TV, on the screen.
Right.
So, but we send them. We send them gifts, send them money or whatever, you know. And they, I hope that they're going to be all right. I'm not sure, I don't know too much about them, you know. His two grandsons, they seem to be doing fine.
Right.
They seem to be doing fine. And I have lots of nieces and nephews. I have my brother Grover had 3 children, 2 daughters, and 1 son. He lost 1 daughter to AIDS. She married this guy who lived in North Carolina, and he was on drugs. And of course, she was so in love, she got involved in it too. And I know she called us one night and she said that she had to get away from him because he was killing her, whatever. But then after it quieted down, she didn't want to leave him. When they did separate, they found out that they had AIDS, and my brother said to me, "It's horrible sitting here at the hospital watching my daughter die, and I can't do nothing about it." And she was another beautiful girl.
That's a hard feeling.
His younger, he has Parkinson's disease now, and his younger daughter is taking care of him. And his son is doing very well, has a very good job, and he's doing very well. He has 1 grandson who's a doctor, and he lost 1 grandson who was studying to be a doctor from Brown University in New York. He died from cancer. They thought they had it in remission, but it came back.
Right.
And he was very young. As a matter of fact, he was in the hospital in D.C. What's the name of the Veterans Hospital? Bethesda. Bethesda.
Walter Reed.
I-
Was it a military hospital?
No, I think it was Bethesda. There's a hospital?
There's a hospital in Bethesda. I'm not sure the name of it.
Well, that's where.
Sibley is one in Georgetown.
Well, that's where he was, because I went to see him when I was there. I was in D.C. one time. He was there, and he was up and about and jubilant, you know, the whole thing, but he was sick. And, of course, they didn't expect him to live, and he didn't. He has a daughter who just got married, my brother Grover, and his mother, after the mother and father separated, she had one more child. I don't know anything about him. My brother Don has 2 sons. He lost his wife. As a matter of fact, Grover lost his wife too in her 50s. And Don lost his wife in her 50s. And I think they both died from diabetes. When Don had 2 sons, and they're both doing well now. They both finished college and they're doing well. One of them is kind of ill, but he seemed to be making it all right. And Victor is the one that his daughter just passed. That my 3rd brother, and he has 1 more daughter by the wife he's with, and then he has 2 or 3 other children. He has 1 son and 1 daughter. That's not that's out of wedlock. I put it that way.
Right.
Yeah. Then there's Frank. Frank is my brother who is here, there, and everywhere. They call him a con man or whatever. He never really wanted to work, but he always had money, you know. But when he got in trouble, you always heard from him. You might have heard Denise say that. And he's ill now. He is in New York in a convalescent home.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm,
I'm
yeah.
going to talk about it.
Yeah, he's a mess. Frank is a good person. I remember once I was sick, and I was in Connecticut, and I got sick, and nobody could find out what was wrong with me at the hospital. So they put me on the plane. They sent me back to Alabama because I didn't want to come home because my mother was there. She could take care of me. So I called my 2 brothers, whose sister-in-laws, I didn't get along well because they drank and they smoked, and I didn't. So they say I was being a snob. I don't think so, but that's what they call me. And so I came back home and I needed. Billy was on his way in the car because that we had just moved to California. We didn't have that much money, so he was driving in, and the other two, my other two brothers' wives said, "No, we're not gonna give her any money." So Frank, I called Frank and told him that Billy was on the way, and as soon as Billy got in, that money was there just like that. You know,
Yep.
no matter where he got it from, he sent it to him, that kind of thing, you know. So Frank is all right. Frank has one daughter who passed, his oldest daughter. He has one daughter who's a nurse, and I don't know what happened to his son. You know.
Hardships and blessings. It's like
Yeah.
you just never know what God's plan.
That's what I'm saying. You just never know. And then I have a daughter, Roderick, my youngest brother, who his daughter she's in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. She's a doctor, and he has a son who's doing very well. He lives in, I think, North Carolina. Hmm. He's been married a couple of times, and and my daughter, my sister rather, the only sister that my father said to me when she was born and I was in college, "Oh, you have a sister now." I said, "Are you kidding me?" I haven't had a sister all these years. I'm grown. She's not my sister. She's like a baby. But anyway, she has 3 children. One teaches in Washington. He just got married to a Caucasian girl. And I said that just because for giving you information, it doesn't matter because I got other relatives who are too. But his son, her second son, he got into drugs. She let him go. She called them to come and arrest him. He stayed his time. He got out, and now he has a very successful business. He travels all over. He does something in the construction, but he runs the business. He's the business, you know. People work for him. So he's doing very well. And the daughter has been working at this same insurance company ever since she got out of high school. And I don't know, she's probably way up there by now. And that sister, my sister, their mother, is an administrator of all the convalescent homes and things. It's some kind of association they have, and she's the administrator of all in Alabama. So she has a big time job.
Oh, beautiful. That's
yeah.
great. That's great.
And her husband is a wonderful man. She's the money maker in the home, so he takes good care of her. And that's just the way it is. And that's about all, you know, as far as most of the children have at least one, their children have at least one child. And then my brother Frank, and I don't know, this must have happened when my mother was separated from my father. It comes to find out through the social media that my father wasn't his father.
Oh,
Yeah, so
Mommy went
none
out.
of us ever knew that until a couple of years ago.
Mama was getting tired of all the.
Yeah, so then I imagine each time she planned to stay away from him, but my daddy would kill her if she hadn't come back to him. And I'd like to show you some pictures. My mother was, her father, I told you his father was Irish. Beautiful lady, way down here. Very, very pretty lady. But anyway, what was it? Okay.
Talking about Frank
Okay.
having a different father.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know what happened. I didn't even know anything about that until about a couple of years ago, you know.
Wow.
When we found, and that's how we found Frank's daughter. She's living here now. She was living in Tennessee then. So I'm in touch with her. We talk on the phone quite a bit. As a matter of fact, I try to stay in touch with most of them, you know. And some of them, of course, you lose touch with them, you know. And as far as cousins, now when I was growing up, like I said, I knew all my relatives. I knew my uncle, my mother's brother's children, and my grandmother's, each one of her brother's children and grandchildren. And the same thing with my grandfather. I knew them all. We all visited. We all kept in touch. And, you know, we had family reunions, all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't happen now. It's kind of,
Because everybody's so spread out.
everybody's so spread out now, so it's not the same anymore. But my family, as far as family's been concerned, I've had a good, very good family life, you know. When I lived in California, everybody I know came to visit me. And we had gatherings and family gatherings, all kind of things. And I have had lots of friends. And we have partied hardy, but we were never the drinking and getting drunk and all that kind. It's more a social type thing.
Yeah.
And like I said, my husband was a city commissioner. That should have been one of the climax of our life because we dealt with the mayor and the whole bit. But I'm not that type of a socialite. I don't like all the attention, and I don't like always being around people, a lot of people. I just like being around certain people, you know what I mean? And I get along with most people that I'm around, but it's just that you'll go to parties and you didn't know anybody, and everybody was asking, well, what do you do? And I don't want to be here. But my husband loved that kind of stuff. Even when he was a minister, it's the same thing. He was a United Methodist minister and a Presbyterian minister. Presbyterian when he first started off, and after he came out here, he became a Methodist.
Right.
But we met a lot of people, and we've been. As a matter of fact, he was also a probation officer. Yeah, and we went to, and he owned a multi-million-dollar. He was partner in a multi-million-dollar business. And that's why every time I said, I want to do this and I want to do that, he said, you don't need to do that because I'm taking care of you, you know, that kind of thing. That's why I didn't become an attorney. You know why I didn't become a doctor? Because that's what I wanted to do. But anyway, the life has been, we've had a good life. Like I said, we've always, after we got our first house, we didn't have any money. I don't know how we got it. But we got it. That was in Watts. Then we bought another one. And we didn't sell the one of the second one. I tried to give it to my brother, Victor. And Victor didn't want, he was working for the school board. I don't want two jobs. Well, the house note was $127 a month.
Wow.
And the taxes was $600 a year. So it wasn't bad. But his girlfriend at that time wanted it.
Yeah.
She said, I could have got Section 8. But he wasn't into that. So we've eventually sold it because they built a freeway across the street going the
Talking about the 110? The 110 freeway?
I don't know which
Or
one
the
it was.
105?
It was the one over in the
The one going
like
toward-
Hoover and 120th Street. I'm sorry,
That's right.
over that area. Over, I don't know which one it
Going
was.
down toward Long Beach or
Yeah,
that one? Okay, that's the 110.
yeah. That's when after they built that. I couldn't stand all of the mess and stuff. It was terrible. So I told my husband, I can't live here.
Right.
So that's when we would get in the car, me and the kids, and we found this house. And I told the kids, that's going to be our house right there.
Yeah.
And we would sit in the front of that house every time. I would pick them up from school, take them out to get something to eat, and then we'd go look at the house. So I personally went to my credit union then and bought, because I was then teaching, and I got the down payment. And so Billy took his veterans money and got the house. And the house is we paid 42, I think, or 40 something, and it's worth almost $2 million.
Oh,
Now that's with a bargain, huh?
that is a bargain. That was a smart move. Y'all
Yeah,
did.
well, and we just finished building an apartment in the back. So that's another part of income. My son lives there.
Okay. Nice.
And like I said, we bought a condo in Alabama, and then my my daughter came there to live, and she wanted a house. So we went in, we bought it, and then we just let her pay us, and we had it fixed up, and she's living there now. That's Dawn. Dawn is very smart, and she's a pretty girl. Because sometimes she lets herself go. She was married and she married this guy who was a party guy.
Mhm.
He had a couple of sports cars, but she was very quiet and unconcerned, and she's still like that.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. Okay, it's okay with Don. No matter, you know.
Yeah.
And he loved the party a lot, and she didn't.
Right.
And all his friends were party people.
Mhm.
So they didn't stay. After the second child was born, they divorced.
Oh.
And Dawn, I don't even know if she had a boyfriend since then.
Oh,
And that's been a long time.
that's a long
But
time.
she just made herself contented, just the way she was. And so we travel together a lot. As a matter of fact, I travel with both my children. And I'm supposed to be in Mexico right now because my son tried to get me to go with him.
Mhm.
But I told him Mexico is number 2 with the pandemic.
Pandemic is
I don't want to go. I'm
putting the-
very
It's putting
paranoid.
the brakes on a lot of things.
I'm very paranoid. I'm not like some people who take a lot of. I take chances on certain things, but that for me, I don't want to be in an incubator. I'd rather just, you know.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I did lose one friend, my maid of honor, in this pandemic.
Mhm.
She lived in Connecticut. But anyway, that's. I have lots of young nieces and young nephews, and a lot of them are very successful. I have cousins and things. I have people who work at the what is it, at the space area in
Air and space.
Alabama.
Oh.
Space, what is it, in Huntsville? I think. Anyway, it's in Alabama, and I have and they're supposed to have very good jobs there. I have people who, like I said, who doctors, lawyers, all things, you know, that kind of thing in the family. And we're proud of all of them. We're proud of the young people. And those who didn't do well, we're proud of them too, because I still talk to a lot of nieces and nephews. Okay, we moved to Las Vegas in 1994. Unexpectedly, no plans, absolutely not ever. As a matter of fact, my husband had suggested moving to Las Vegas, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" But because he found a lot of land real cheap, so he thought that would be a good idea.
Mhm.
But not me, I wouldn't come to Las Vegas. So he had a friend. As a matter of fact, the lady and I were friends. We were in a group called the Top Ladies. Denise is a member of it now. But the friend passed, and so he had cleaners and several pieces of property. So he sold some of it and he moved here. And he was a friend of Billy's. So we came to visit him one weekend.
Mhm.
And he lived right around the corner over here, not on the water. And he was saying there was a house across the street from him, a big house, for sale. He said, "Why don't you guys move to Las Vegas and not me?" He said, "That's a big house, it's nice, and the price is right." I said, "I'm not moving to Las Vegas." So he said, "Just come on, let's go look at the house. Let's go look." So we walked across the street and we looked at the house. And the house was really nice. Big windows up, way up, real high, you know. And so I looked out the back window and I saw this water, and there were no houses down on that end.
Mhm.
No houses built down there. Those houses are custom built on that side.
Mhm.
They were built after we moved here.
Mhm.
And that house on the corner over there was built, see they watching that, was built after we moved here.
Uh-huh.
So when we moved, I said, "You know what, if I moved to Las Vegas, I want to live right there." He said, "Let's talk to the real estate man." He was there at the house, showing the house that day. So we started talking, and he said, "Don't leave. Go out. I have a couple of houses on this street I can show you." That was on this side, because there were houses here. But there was on about the 4 houses you see, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th house was the only houses over there. The first house wasn't there. And down the street was vacant lots. I could walk across around there and go and walk across. I can't do that anymore. You have to go through the gate.
Yeah.
But I could just walk all down and it was when Las Vegas had no stoplights, just stop sign, 2-lane highways,
Wow.
and you saw nothing but the desert. So anyway, he showed us 3 houses, the house next to that house next door, and another house down the street. And I didn't particularly care for them. As a matter of fact, I wasn't willing to pay what they were asking for.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I hadn't planned to sell, I hadn't sold a house there in L.A.
Yeah.
And I hadn't planned to buy no house. So then he showed us this house.
Uh-huh.
Whoever lived here, this house was 2 years old.
Uh-huh.
This house was like a holy wreck. They had knocked holes in the wall. They had torn out all the utensils. They had no lights in the ceiling and all that. It was a mess.
Uh-huh.
And so the bathrooms was terrible. The fireplaces had broken pieces of tile on them for decorations.
Uh-huh.
It was the weirdest, and this was all weeds, nothing but high
Oh,
weeds.
wow.
There was no balcony. We put the balcony up there after we moved here. So the whole yard was a mess. All of this was a yard. And so we said, I looked at Bill, I said, you know what? This house is just like the house next door to that house. And I said, we could really get it and fix it up. So we estimated how much was it.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us, we paid, now these houses were like $400,000 and $500,000.
Right.
But we got our house for $195,000. I think it was $195,000, I'm not sure the exact price. And then they took $20,000 off of the kitchen because it was in such a bad shape.
Yeah.
So we got a big deal.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I said, we've had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. That was one of our ups.
Yeah, yeah.
So we went back home and talked to our children,
Mm-hmm.
and they got together, and our daughter had a little money, and we all got it together to get a down payment enough, you know.
Yeah.
And we got the house. We moved in
Yeah,
it
you're right.
and spent about $50,000 at that time to renovate it.
What?
Yep.
Oh, y'all.
And now it's worth it's $400,000 to $500,000 because it went the recession. It was $600,000,
Mm-hmm.
and the recession took it down. Now it's going back.
No matter what, you up.
That's what I know. That's the whole. When some of the neighbors find out about it, they say, what happened? Nothing. We were just using that common sense.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So anyway, we moved here, and we started meeting people,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to found a church.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the people who we met were saying, oh, we have a good time here. We go to the casino every day and we do this, that. That wasn't the life I wanted. I didn't want to go to the casino every day. I wanted to do other stuff. So at the church, the pastor took a liking to Billy, and they needed a pastor at another church.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked them into it, and they gave it to Billy. We got that church. And so we left the church where we were, and we went to that church. And when we got there, it was in the red. When we left, we had $25,000 in the bank,
Mm-hmm.
and we had put new benches in the church.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened, we opened a food bank,
Mm-hmm.
and I ran the food bank,
Mm-hmm.
and the clothing. We had a clothing corner and a food bank. And we would go to the food bank, and people would donate, and and we would give all the, because it was more of a black and Hispanic neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So the people would give us all type of stuff, and we would have all kind of rummage sales and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and just build up the money, and got the church in very good condition until Billy stayed until Billy retired. Well, no, I take that back. We stayed there until a Hispanic, because we didn't speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
A Hispanic pastor came in and took over so we could leave.
All right.
And then he left there, we took over AME.
Uh-huh.
You see, yeah, I think it was AME Church. But anyway, he took that over, and he stayed there till he retired. And we, like I said, we met a lot of people. We've done a lot of things. We've been all over the place,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been all over this northwestern area.
Yeah.
We've been up to Colorado. We've been to South Dakota, North Dakota, all of those western places, Arizona,
yeah.
you name it. We've been there because we were in a bus club, and the bus would say, "We going to?" We said, "We going to?" We were right there.
And you might as
So-
well see as much as you can.
And then we had concerts.
we had all type. We had, and it was an integrated church. And so we did just a lot of stuff, and we met a lot of people at that church. And like I said, that was our life. And when he retired, but you know, Billy got cancer while he was at the church. But Bill is the type of person, when he had cancer, it was no big deal. And I would say, Billy, I have to go to the store or whatever. Stay up. He was upstairs, stay in the bed till I get back. When I come back, he's downstairs. He,
And so he got to full remission. That's
he's been in remission now for I know more than 10 years. And the same thing happened to my son. Bill has prostate, and my son had, what did he have? Oh my gosh! Intestines. What do you call it? No, the intestines. Colon.
Colon cancer.
Colon, And he's been in remission for about 3 or 4 years.
That's beautiful.
They did, and I'm so thankful. You know, I have a lot to be thankful for. The only person we worry about now is my daughter, Dawn. She has diabetes.
Okay.
And Dawn is the type of person who, she'll take care of you, but she's going to take care of Dawn.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully she can just change her diet and focus on a good diet.
I'm always on a case about her diet and everything, but she's been had a lot of problem with going up and down, that kind of thing. So, and see, my father, on my grandfather's side, that was diabetes, and he's lost a niece and a nephew. You know, at the start where they had to cut their legs off and all that kind of stuff. And they did that to one of my sister-in-laws too, to Grover's wife.
Oh wow! Hold on one second. It's getting darker. I need to adjust the exposure. Oh, actually, you still look great. Never mind.
So anyway, Billy retired, and we both kind of retired and just started traveling, going anywhere we felt like we wanted to go.
Good.
You know, and like I said, we wanted to leave here. We went down and bought some property in Alabama, but we didn't want. I got the pneumonia while I was down there. I got real sick. Never had pneumonia in my life, but you know, it's really damp weather there.
Yeah.
And it's really cold, like in D.C.
And you're susceptible
Gets
to
all,
it.
and I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
So I says, I'm gone. Y'all gonna have the house out of here.
Go back to hot, dry Las
Back
Vegas.
in hot, dry Las Vegas, and I love it. My husband said they have to carry him out of here.
Yeah.
And people have been so nice to us. You know, all during this pandemic, people have brought us flowers, little treats, little candy things, and cookies and food, whatever, and callers. You know, so I haven't had a chance to be lonely or anything.
Well, that's good.
Just enjoying life. And that's like I'm say, I don't need to go. I've been so many places and I've met so many people and done so much. I don't miss anything. And I think we've been to just about every restaurant that, unless it's a recent open, you know. So we've lived a good life.
So now, words of advice, words of wisdom from wise.
Well, I don't know
Miss
too much
Archibald.
about wisdom, whether I have wisdom or not, but I do know that I would suggest that people learn to love more, to draw closer to you, the people around you, especially your family, but also to your neighbors and your friends. You know, it's always good to have somebody that you can call a friend, because you can't call everybody your friend.
That's true.
And it's always good to be close to people because you never know when you're going to need somebody. Right now, if you all are not here and Bill got sick, I have neighbors that I can call and say, my husband needs to go to the hospital. I need you to pick me or whatever. And even though I don't drive anymore, I don't have to worry about it. Now, can't say that's what the neighbors did.
Right.
They recently moved there.
Okay. Well,
And I don't know whether I should say talk about them or not.
no, I don't want to say nothing.
No, I don't.
But now, if let's to each one of your children, what words of advice or something that you want to say to them that they can carry with them for the rest of their lives, that, you know, it's something maybe you've never said or something that you said and you just need to repeat it just so that they hear it over and over again, because eventually they're going to watch this.
I know. And all I can say is with my firstborn, my oldest child, which is Dominic, she knows that I love her a lot. Now, me and her have had our little whatevers, you know, but I've always been there for her, and she's always been there for me. She's about my strongest mind child, you know what I mean? And she's been going through some tough times now. And I wanted to tell her that God is good and that He's always there no matter what. And that whatever your problems are, He can solve them for you. You know, many times we think we have to do it. You can't do it, but God can. Okay?
Yeah.
So give up all the stuff you're carrying on your shoulders, these burdens, because there's nothing you can do, and let God take care of it. Let's say, let God take over, let Him do it. That's the most important thing there. Sometimes she tries to carry burdens that she shouldn't be trying to carry. I don't say that to her. She'll hear it on here. Because I don't want to do anything that will hurt her feelings or anything, you know.
Right.
But I'm a mother. She was my firstborn. And she knows that her mother took good care of her through thick and thin, no matter what. I was there for her. And no matter what she does, I still love her because that's my child, you know. With my second child, I just would like for her to take better care. I would like for her to be closer to me now that I'm here. And I'd like for her to take better care of herself. She's one of the sweetest people, one of the nicest people I met. She is, because she's very sincere, but she doesn't take care of herself like she would. She's not going to, she'll say something to you, but she's not going to say anything to hurt your feelings. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But she doesn't take care of herself like she needs to. She tells me she does, but I know better. Because I think, you don't believe it, but mothers know their children.
Yeah.
No matter what you say,
Yeah.
your mother knows you, if she was your mother,
Yes.
and if she lived with you. So I just want her to take better care of herself, and like now she's taking care of grandchildren. She works every day. And it's too much for her. She's sick. But now that her daughter feels like she can do what she wants when she gets ready, and I want her to realize, and I've told her this, your mother's not going to be here always. You need to prepare yourself to take care of you and your children if anything should happen to your mother. I love her, and she knows I'll do anything for her too. All of them.
Yes.
And with my son, he's been a strong supporter as a young man, you know. And I want him, and they've always said that he was my favorite, but it wasn't. You know, your youngest child, you always give them more attention, no matter what. And then when your son, if you have one son, the son is always closer to his mother, even in my family, you know. The girl's always closer to the father. But I want my children to know that even though it seems that way, it's not true, because I would do the same for you as I do for the others. And I want you to know that, and I want you to know that and do that for each other. Because as long as you got your sisters and your brothers, you can make it. There's always somebody for you to reach out to.
Right.
You know, when you let your sisters and brothers go, and you have no mother and father, you're lost.
Yeah.
You know, and many times when you have a mother and father, if you're closer to sisters and brothers, you got it made.
Yeah.
That's your part. That's all a part of life. You know,
Yes, it
you
is.
can always call on them.
That's right.
You can always tell your sister stuff you wouldn't tell your mother and your father. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, it's just, I just wish, I love to see families that are close to each other and that reaches out to each other.
Yeah.
Make sure that each other is safe. And in this world, we need all help we can get,
Yes, we do.
because there's so much going on and so many things are happening, and so many people don't care about the other. And that's what bothers me the most when I see all the things that are happening now. And people just don't care. Who am I to go into a store and shoot somebody down? Just because. You should be out seeing if, Bill and I have gone to a store and we've seen people standing in line, a mother maybe with children don't have enough money. We saw a young man one day who was buying something, didn't have enough money. Bill paid for all his groceries. We paid for women and children, not trying to be uppity or be big timers, because we didn't have that much either. But here's somebody who needs the food, and if they need it and you can help, then help.
That's right.
That's the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I've had both relatives living with me in the law, as I said, in the law house. And I'll tell you something funny about the These might not want to tell. I used to say that all the time, the law house. And for years, she said, I didn't know what you were talking about. I thought you were talking about some kind of animal or something. Do you know what that means?
No.
The law allows. You're doing whatever as much as the law allows. The L-A-W allows, A-L-L-O-W. But you say it so quick. It's so jumbled until it sounds like something else. He's so he's terrible. He's more, well, what is it? He's worse than the law allows.
Right. That makes no sense.
Yeah, that kind of thing. But anyway, that's the way life, and life has been great to us. And there's too much to talk about. There's so much to tell. You can't remember all the stuff. But I do remember this. My mother was good to me. My grandfather was good to me. I was his favorite. He got in trouble because of me. My grandmother was good to me. My uncles and my aunts. I would go to Detroit every summer, and my aunt would buy she would keep me the whole summer. And then every time I came home, I had all kind of fabulous clothes to wear to school. And one time she bought me a coat. It was cold in Detroit. And this was September. She bought me a warm coat. When I got home, I couldn't even wear it. It was so heavy. It made my shoulders hurt. So they've always taken good care of me.
That's beautiful.
I haven't had problems with anybody but my father. My brothers have always been good. We've been, and I've always tried to be close to their wives, even though for some reason I didn't make it. I have to be honest, I didn't make it because all of their wives smoked.
Oh, God.
And drink, and I just didn't do. I tried it.
I don't understand that.
I tried it. I went to, when I was in college, the girls would get in the room, and everybody be puffing and choking. And the two of us, me and a friend, would stand up there and laugh at them and look at them, how crazy they were. We weren't about to do it. And I couldn't inhale anyway. I think that's what stopped me. They laugh at me and say, what are you doing? Said she don't know how to smoke. I said, and afterwards, I'm glad I didn't. No, because that's what happened to my cousin, my brother's wife now. She's sick, and she just lost her daughter, and she's on oxygen. But she smoked ever since I've known her.
And smoking takes away 10 years of your life just off the top. It's like if you were expected to live to 80, off the top, it's going to be 70.
It is. My sister-in-laws and all of them smoked and drank, and I would tell them, why y'all do that? Oh, you just think you better. No, I don't. I don't think I'm better. I just don't do it because it messes up your body. But anyway, I have tried all my life to get along with any and everybody. I've done a lot of things for a lot of people, and a lot of people have done a lot of things for me. I've had some people do some really great things for me, and I've tried to give back as much as I could.
Well, when you're a blessing to others, you wind up getting blessed.
And I'm 87 years old. I'll be 87 in November. I always put it. When I was younger, I tried to make it younger. Now that I'm old, I try to make it older. So I'll be 87 my birthday, and I get a lot of compliments even now. When I go out and different things. And this is from all kind of black women, white women, black men, white men. This is the honest to God truth. This is truth. I can walk in the place and they will say little nice things about either what I have on or where your wrinkles.
That's true.
I went to a hospital. I went to the hospital one night, and the little lady said to me, you are not as old as you say you are. I said, yes, I am. I said, you can look at my driver, because I thought she was been put me out or something. But anyway, she said, where are your wrinkles? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I said, well, what do you do? Who do you see? Nothing. And I don't. I never
Take care of
have, you
yourself.
know. So God is good. That's all.
God is good.
Mhm.
Well, I think that's a wonderful way to at least conclude this portion of our.
And I hope that you be around for a long time because I like you.
I like you too, and I think you're beautiful, and you shared some beautiful stories, and this has been fun just getting to know you.
Yeah.
It really has. And so,
And like I said, I love DC, so I hope I get a chance to come back there before I can't go anywhere. Because I look at, like I said, I lost my maid of honor, I lost my first cousin, we were the same age, 1 month apart, and all of that during this pandemic thing. And so I hope I'll be able to I love to travel. I'm not supposed to be at home, I'm supposed to be somewhere else.
right.
And so I hope I get a chance to take at least 1 or 2 more trips.